Hey everybody, Tony D with some screenwriting tips. This is about freelancing hours and writing hours that a lot of people romanticize, but are actually a bit of a struggle if you're a writer and a freelancer. Now, people who know me know that when I'm in writing mode, I normally stay up very late, and I have gone back to that mode. I had a day gig for about 8 months right before the virus, and I had to totally switch my thinking up, and I had to get up early, go to bed early, and really regiment my writing time. But when you're writing full time, or working from home, it tends to be a more luxurious proposition because you have the entire day and you can schedule however you want. And if you get something done early, or you have certain things that you have to do during the course of your day, you have to look for work, you have to follow up with potential contacts, you have to write samples, get a resume together, work on the projects you need to work on. You can kind of schedule that however you want. So it gives you all this great flexibility. And there is great flexibility in it. If you are a freelancer and you're making decent money, it gives you the free time that, for instance, if you have a doctor's appointment, if you need to run an errand, you can schedule things in such a way that you could do that right in the middle of the day. Right? And that's what I would do under normal circumstances. If I had something to do, I'd schedule it for about early afternoon, like 2, 1:30, excuse me. If I wanted to go to the store, I wouldn't go on the weekends. God, no. I would go like on a day like today, like a Wednesday at like 1:30, 2 o'clock. The store would be empty for the most part, and I could drift through mostly empty aisles and get what I need and go to the counter, not have to wait in line. It was a odd time that I would end up in a store on a Saturday or Sunday, or whatever the busy day was. You can't even keep track of the time sometimes. And then I'd be like, geez, where all these people come from? And I'd be like, oh yeah, I came here at the wrong time. But that brings me to the downside of the freelance lifestyle, which is sometimes you just really lose track of the time. And I think everybody's experiencing that now under this lockdown, which is very amusing to me. It is a source of endless amusement to see people post online, memes that freelancers really get, like, I don't even know what day it is. And it's true. You forget what day it is when you are freelancing in your home all the time. So weekends are meaningless because you're working on the weekends too. You just plan to do stuff whenever you want to do it. There's certain things you have to get done, and certainly the weekends are a little different. I remember sometimes getting ready to go to the post office, driving all the way to the post office back in the days when I did a ton of mail. And I would get there and I'd go, why are these guys closed? And then I'd go, oh crap, it's Sunday. I should not have come here today. I'll have to come back tomorrow. And I did that a bunch of times because I just was so tuned out. I didn't even know what day it was. And sometimes it's even tough to remember. Thank God for smartphones. I could just look at the phone and go, oh, wait a minute, it's Sunday or Saturday. It's a different kind of day. Also, your sleep habits change. As I said, I went from getting up for work at a regular time and going to bed at a regular time to today I slept till 1:30 in the afternoon because I stayed up to almost 5 a.m. writing. And it has its pros and cons. The pros are when you stay up that late, the phone's not ringing, which can be a distraction, and also there's nothing else going on. I mean, there's nothing on TV. There's even the YouTubers go to bed. I stayed up so late last night. Sticks and Hammer 666, who's currently I think in Denmark or the Netherlands somewhere. He didn't do his podcast yesterday, or his video podcast. And then I checked YouTube right before I went to bed, and his next day's podcast went up. And then I started watching it, and then I realized, why am I watching this? I should go to bed. You can get a little foggy if you keep pushing that line. And that's what happens to me all the time. I start pushing the line of staying up later and later and later and later. And I start later and later and later and later. And eventually I push it to this is sort of my limit, where I start to go, okay, now I have to pull back. Now I have to start getting up and regimenting myself a little better, because otherwise my whole clock will turn around, and next thing you know, I'll be going to bed as the sun comes up, or in the noon, and waking up when it's dark, and I don't want to be a vampire, and sometimes you have to go out and when things are open. So, and as much as I would love the idea of getting up at 3 a.m. and going to run my errands, nothing's going to be open. But it depends on how you live in your current situation. When you live alone like me, you have a lot of flexibility in that area. If you have a wife or kids, especially if you have kids, you have to gear your schedule more towards them and work around that. But the advantages of the sort of freelancing lifestyle is this flexibility in schedule. The disadvantages is if you're forced to schedule, along the lines of a more traditional job because you have kids or a spouse or whatever. The downside of that is that you're locked in with them in terms of what the busy times are. So then when you do have to go to the store, you end up going when they would go. And since they can't go in the day, you end up going, after work, 7 o'clock on a Thursday, go into the supermarket, and, the whole place is jam-packed full of people. But, there are some ways to regulate yourself. And the thing about freelancing is you do have to be very disciplined. You have to recognize when you sleep too late and have to get your sleeping schedule arranged. And you have to recognize that you should be accomplishing things every day. And that's the important part of the discipline. When this whole lockdown first started, I kind of was very blah. I didn't really get a lot done other than these videos. Now, part of that was I've become fascinated with YouTube, and I want to make good videos, and I'm experimenting with various things and formats and trying to figure things out. But part of that was I just didn't feel like doing anything. I just wasn't motivated because I was off my regular schedule and off my regular eating habits, because I had to eat all this like food in a can, which kind of sucks. It's getting old. I was thrown off my game. I was mentally not on my game. Physically I was okay, although today I feel a little run down for some reason. It may be because of the weird sleeping hours I'm starting now. It may just be that I slept too much. It may be that I'm getting a little sick because I did make a few jaunts out. Who knows? But I need to get back in a regular pattern of behavior for myself. And part of that, I'm starting to gear up a little bit, do some exercise, walking the dog again. I have to do more than that, but I'm slowly ramping up. And that, you can take a page out of the Jordan Peterson book. If you feel a little overwhelmed by making so many changes, if you've really sort of gone down the rabbit hole and you're sitting in your bathrobe right now, unwashed for 4 days, 6 video games deep into not being an unproductive blob, well, you have to start by doing the basics. And the basics are get yourself a shower, start showering every day, start getting up at the same time, start eating regularly, start taking care of yourself a little better, and then start regulating, disciplining like what you're going to get accomplished. What I would do is, as a freelancer, and I'm just sort of winding back into this, is I would start my day by looking for work. So I'd have lunch because I get up at noon, have lunch, and while I'm having lunch, I'd go through, various freelance sites, Craigslist, a few other newsletters I belong to, and go through them and look for jobs and apply to them. And once I was done that, I was kind of like, you feel like, oh, okay, I got accomplished. I looked for work. I sent out resumes. I sent out things. I've looked for work. So good. That's accomplished. So I got something accomplished, and I did it during a meal. And so I'm doubly productive. Now, these days, I check the news and YouTube and look over some of the YouTube videos because I'm doing YouTube stuff. I figure out what I'm going to do for Piney Podcast and other things. And then I want to get some videos up, at least a couple, just to start the day. And then after that, I'm going to start to do research, or maybe I'm going to start doing some writing. I'm going to work on the comics, see what I need to have scripted for the Webcomic Factory or Superfrat, and do my promotion, promote the Webcomic Factory and Superfrat, promote the books, the Wokistan novel, and the Pineys, available at Amazon.com. Ebook, trade paperback, Kindle Unlimited is free. Audiobooks coming soon. So once I've done all that, I feel like, oh, okay, I've accomplished a few things. And by that time, usually it starts to be like closer to dinner. I have to start thinking about cooking or ordering something or whatever. And then I do that, and I usually, at that point, I might have to take care of some stuff. I might have to clean or walk the dog or whatever. And, then after that, after dinner, it's kind of a little relaxing time, sort of maybe play a couple video games, watch TV show or something. And then after that, get back into it. Have to post the comics for the next day, have to start thinking about what I'm going to write, finish watching YouTube videos, finish shooting YouTube videos and loading them up, and then start work on things like novels and TV shows, whatever the hell I'm writing. Right now I'm working on a sequel to Wokistan, by the way, and it's going pretty well. It was a little hard to get back into, and the hard part of that, especially when it comes to the writing, is when you're working on a novel or something long term, you gotta kind of gear up like a long distance runner. A long distance runner, he stops running for a while. He's not gonna boom shoot out and run a marathon. You're gonna build up. You're gonna do like a short run, and then you're gonna So usually the first thing I do when I get geared up again is I go back and I start reading the novel that I already wrote, and get into it, and usually that's about all I do. I just read and start to process what I wrote already, if I haven't done that already. And then the next night, I'll finally start writing something, or at least think about it, and maybe write a few sentences, not a whole chapter. Right now, I'm up to about 1,000 to 1,500 words a night. I'm trying to push that up to 2,000 or 3,000 a night. I want to get to the point where I could really burn through the rest of this novel, at least the first draft, and get done before the end of April. That's my goal, to at least be done the draft before the end of April. I'm working on it with Christian. Christian's doing a lot of the detail that I tend to miss in these things, especially with regards to LA and the business, because she was knee deep in that, or neck deep in that for a long time. And, so it's a process, and you, like a long distance runner, you want to gear up for that process, and hopefully by the end of this, I'll be writing where I was, before, doing like 5,000 words a night at least, or more, and if I get any ghostwriting opportunities in between, then it'll be a lot more, let me tell you, because ghostwriting I was doing sometimes definitely 7,000 words a night at least. And sometimes I would push that to 10 or 12,000. Like, I think the biggest day I had was 12,000. And that was a whole day. Like, I started, got up, and that's basically all I did was write to get to that 12,000. And that was, keep in mind, that's not polished words. That's like just banging it out. Later I'd go back and, tweak it and check it and whatever. But, there's, for me, at least in my process, I prefer to bang out words, just like crank it, and then go back later and reread it look at it and, ask myself, what the hell did I mean by this sentence? It makes no sense. But more often than not, I get the idea of my own thoughts and I, fix it to clarify things for people who, may not be totally in tune with my brain at that particular moment. It can get a little too inside. You can get tunnel vision when you get that deep into a project, and that's why it's good to have other people to read it, or to set it aside for a while and then do the polish when you have fresh eyes. But I'm glad to see everybody's in the freelance lifestyle. It's fun. It's fun staying up late at night. It's fun binge watching stuff. It's fun to just be up at different times and do things. But you have to be determined to be productive. Be determined to get things done every single day, and slowly build on that. Clean yourself up, clean the house, get regimented at certain times to do certain things. And then once you're there and you're in that mode, you can be more productive. And I think you, like me, will enjoy staying up till 4 in the morning, writing all night.